Hey folks, this is the next part of the series of all the stuff that we're doing for Community Independent Methodist Church. The ATEM, the video switcher, came in a lot earlier than I thought, so I thought I was not going to be able to do this till I get back from California, but hey, it is here. So what we're going to do is set it up, walk through everything. I'm going to break back out the cameras, all 5 of the PTZ cameras, as well as the streaming PC, and hook everything up. Actually, now I think about it, I got to roll back out the networking and give it an IP address as well too, so we can connect to it. And we're just going to go through setting the whole thing up. So let me get my camera, clear space off, and let's go to get this stuff set up. All right, so we got everything set up, and I have the computer set up as well. There's going to be the streaming PC. So let's go ahead and cut over to that so you can see what is going on. We got everything plugged in. We got our cameras plugged in, everything. And I'm on the network. So we're going to have to get some work done to get this set up. So let's go ahead and cut over to the computer. All right. So we're here on the system. So let's come over here and let's just make sure we're getting something. So the best thing to do, because this has a Decklink mini recorder, that's what everything is coming in on. Let's go ahead and check our video capture, desktop video that is, set up, because we want to make sure that we're getting a signal. All right, so as you can see, we are getting a signal. We're getting 1080i 5994, so that's good. Now, again, remember, this is the ATEM Television Studio HD. There is no scaler, so all of our cameras need to be set to whatever the ATEM is set to. So, number one, we're getting a signal, so that's good. So our cable is fine, the Decklink is fine, the ATEM is fine because we're getting something. All right, the next thing we need to do is I have the latest version of software on here, so I am assuming that this ATEM does not have the latest. So let's go to the ATEM setup and give it permissions. And I do have the ATEM on the network. And you can see we're connected over USB, which is good because we have to set an IP address for this on our network, and it is plugged in to the Unify network that we're installing as well too. So let's go to save. And yes, we need to do an update. So let's go ahead and run that update. And for anyone who is still using these, it can update over the network, but it's best to have it connected over USB. And that's how, obviously, I have this connected right now. It's actually going from USB-C to a hub to a Balun over USB over Cat6, back to another one, then to a cable to the ATEM. So like I said, we had to be creative to get everything set up. So let's speed through this here. Alrighty, the software is done. Let's go ahead and click done. And now we can get in here and we're going to set an IP address here. So by default, it does this. I'm going to set this to 192.168.1.240. Just change the gateway to match, save, and boom, now we have a network. We can see it over USB and a network. So let's go ahead and launch the software now. All right, so we're here now, and I don't want to give these cameras a specific jack yet. Because I don't recall exactly which one is going to be connected to what. I do know that the ATEM Television Studio HD only has 4 SDI-ins, but we have 5 cameras. So the back camera is going to go from SDI into a SDI to HDMI microconverter, and it's going to be connected to this over HDMI into HDMI input number 2. Our computer is going to be plugged in to HDMI 1. I do know that because that's the closest one, and I want the converter to be connected to the power that's going to be inside the media booth. So we'll come to that. So let's go ahead and do our setup here, because we are going to run this at the highest resolution that we can support. So we go to the gear. Let's go ahead and crank it up to 1080p 5994. And we're going to hit set. And this is the exact same thing that I have, the exact same setup everything at my church, so I know that these PTZs will support this, but we will have to go in and change the settings so that it does support. All right, so we got this done. The other thing I'm going to do is set this up for lower thirds automatically. So let's go back over here to our gear here. Let's go to our labels. And actually, I went to the wrong one. Let's go here to File and then go to Preferences. And then this is where we're going to start doing our mapping. So we have all of our inputs here. So camera 1 through 4 are the HDMI. 5 through 8 are the SDIs. Now I have the computer's stream coming as an AUX out. Now what I could do is for our back screen, what I could do is hook the, well, we don't really have a back one, but it's going to be the one that's hanging down in the, from the ceiling, that's meant for the pulpit and the choir. That would be the backstage display. So technically what I could do is run 2 outputs from our computer, whatever. Right now I'm using the streaming system to also run the presentation software. I'm going to run the secondary and the tertiary outputs into the ATEM. So that would be input number 1 and number 3. And I can route the AUX to be exactly specific to that screen. That's what I'm thinking about doing. But that is all dependent on how that's going to be set up, because we are using the Ori matrix. So that's going to be Ethernet that's going to each TV. But I have to make sure that we run a SDI cable directly to that TV, and it's not going to be a part of the matrix. But actually, never mind. I don't need to do that, because the matrix we got is a 4 in, 4 out. So I would just run, never mind, that's too much. We don't have to worry about the AUX. But right now the AUX is using to the streaming PC. All right, so some of this, I guess we can actually label. Let's go here to our settings. So input number 1, like I said, that is PC. And I'll just say, I'll say audience. And then number 2 is going to be the back PTZ. Number 3, so I'll say BPTZ. And then number 3, like I said, is going to be stage display. Stage 4 is nothing. And then we're going to start going through, and we need to find out which PTZ is which. So we're just going to, I don't know. We're just going to do PTZ 2. And once we get these set up, we have to give these the proper name so we know which one is which. I guess I should have put the number at the same time over here, which would make it easier. AJ, 3, 2, and 1. All right. So let's go ahead and save that. And sometimes I wish it didn't close because I wasn't done. All right, from our audio, we're going to be running directly into, from the Behringer over XLR cables directly into the back. So nothing really needs to be adjusted here. Our Multiview, we will adjust these. I don't know why all of these are set to black, but let's go ahead and set these up. So we're going to have, let's put all, well, we have 5, so it's not going to work like that. So let's do audience, stage, and then we're going to start doing, I'm going to put the baptismal PTZ up in the right hand corner because that's not going to be one that's used all the time, but we are going to use the back PTZ, front PTZ, I'm just assuming what they're going to be, and then left and right. That's what will happen. And then from here, maybe we can add a media player in here. I'll just add media player 1 in here for right now. All right, so there we go. And we can change the layout. And this is going to be connected to a 32-inch TV that's going to be in the back. All right, so see, this is cool. So this is Visca control, but that's RS422. I need to play around with that to see how that works. I've never really used it inside the software. But anyway, we're done. We got our labels here. And maybe let's remove number 4 because we're not using that input. And how we would do that is go to File, Preferences, and number 4 here. We're just going to set this as none. And then that button goes away because there's no real need to use it. All right. So that's what we got so far. Now we need to make sure that we're getting a signal. So we have to go in and adjust our stuff. But let me finish one thing. I forgot. Let's go to the upstream keyer and not upstream, downstream keyer. And we're going to set this up for lower thirds. So we're going to point this to our audience, which is going to come from our presentation software. We're going to set the fill as the exact same thing. All right. So we're good there. And our auxiliary, that's the aux out. We're going to set this to program, and that's what's going to be going to our streaming PC. Let's save this. I'll just say ATEM setup. All right, so we're going to save all of that. And we're also going to save this as, we're going to set our startup state. So we'll use our back PTZ. And I don't like where these buttons are laid out, so I'm going to have to adjust these. I'm going to put all the PTZ buttons on the bottom. Let's do that now, to be quite honest. I don't like how that's laid out. So let's do PTZ 4, 3, 2, 1, back. This will be none. Let's change this to our stage display and then set this as none too. All right, so now makes it a lot easier that all of our PTZs are on the bottom row and the computer is on the top. All right, so with that, I want to make sure that back PTZ is a default. So that's how it's set up right now. And let's go ahead and save our startup state. So now every time when the ATEM turns back on, it's going to go back to the setting. Our downstream key is set. We will dial that in a little bit more. So if we need to change the coloring to match anything like that, but we're going to just send black, so we shouldn't have to do a lot of adjusting. Output, all that other stuff is fine. We're not using this as a capture card, even though we are, so we could record, but we're using that to go into OBS. All right, so now that we got all this set up, you see we're getting our right signal coming out from the ATEM 2, so that's cool. Now, let's see. Did we get everything right by setting up the PTZs so we don't have to adjust anything? Let's see. Do we get an image? No, we don't. So let's keep our software up. And we're going to set the back, each one of these. Honestly, I think that is probably the cable, to be quite honest. So let me go re-terminate those. Alrighty, so we got everything there. It was actually the cable that I switched out. So we're good. Now, and the thing is, I know it's the cable because I can switch to all the other ones and they show up perfectly fine. So even though I am going to re-terminate these cables because I just made some shorter ones, there's no point in me making multiple 100-foot cables here in my apartment. So let's go over here. Let's move this out of the way. And let's just cycle through our cameras here. So we have PTZ number 1. Let's go ahead and switch. Boom. Then we got the other one. Next one. And then the last one. Now, all of these are side by side. That's why it looks like the image hasn't changed, but they're good. All of them are showing up, and they're showing up as different inputs. So now the other thing is the aux is working because that's how we have this set up. So right now we are going to our program here. Now I could easily verify this because I can go in here and say I want to look at audience, and no matter what I switch, as you can see, our PTZ is supposed to be live, but it's going off of whatever the auxiliary is. So like I said, if we are running the stage display in, no matter what happens, the monitor that's hooked up to this will always be that. All right, so let's go ahead and switch this back to program here. So now that's how you can see everything. Now, the other thing I have set up is we're going to be running this into an Ori 4x4 matrix. I don't have the matrix out right now, but I am running, there's no HDMI program out on the ATEM Television Studio HD, so I'm running SDI out into another SDI to HDMI converter. HDMI is going right now to my TV that's right behind me. So if we cut over to that camera so you can actually see what is going on. So it's the exact same thing that is showing up here. So if I come over here to the software and I change my input, see, that's the same thing that's showing up on the screen. So if I bring up my stuff here so we can see everything, let's super source it, AJ. All right, so as you can see, if we go in here and adjust and switch, you see OBS is showing everything that's right over there, and then down here is what the TV is behind me. So if I can come over here and switch out to our PC here and let's adjust, as you can see, that's what's showing up. If we, well, stage display will work, but I don't have nothing connected to it. Let's go back to our back PTZ, and then boom. Now, like I said, we can come in here if we had this aux, say, always set to our back PTZ, and now we start switching here. As you can see, nothing changed. So this would simulate if we were having our stage display always showing lyrics or something like that. So really, really easy, really straightforward. Now, if there was anything needed to have way more inputs than this, what we would do is have one of the outputs going from the Ori matrix, and that would give us multiple options if we really needed to switch that up a little bit more. But I think we're good. That's it. So again, you see how all these pieces are connected, and that's why I'm breaking these videos apart. So we set up our network, we set up everything in Unify, our networks for the wireless, for the HART network. I'm gonna go back in the controller and hard set the IP address for the ATEM. So it, because the ATEM is set to manually, and I want to make sure that that IP address is taken so no one else can, this controller won't assign it to anybody to cause any conflicts. But we set up that, we set up the PTZs, we set them appropriately with the right resolution. Once we hook that up to the ATEM, there's very little work that needs to be done. So the idea is me walking through everything that I'm doing, this is the prep that I normally do before we start hanging anything. So if we know that everything is working without it being in the walls and the ceilings and everything like that, we know if we have a problem, it's not the hardware, it might be a cabling or something, because we're shown to ourselves as well in this video that each part does work. So that's mainly about it. The only thing else we really got to do is start testing the streaming from the streaming system with everything going on. We already verified the controls with the PTZ, so we already know that works. There's no reason for me to hook that up again. And it's mainly now the next thing is for us just to hook up this into the Ori, send a signal out, and make sure it goes to the other monitors. So I think I can probably do that. I need to repurpose some of these cables I got and go from there. But anyway, I hope this is helping y'all seeing the breakdown of what I do when I install everything. And hopefully this gives you some tips that if you're doing this yourself, how easy it actually is as long as you do it in a step-by-step process. So if you have any questions, please leave them down below and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And of course, we're going to bring y'all along with us when we actually put this in place, which is probably going to be in about 2 weeks. So be on the lookout for that. All of this is a part of a playlist, so you can always go back and watch it. And I put timestamps and chapters, so it's easy for you to jump to the section that we talked about. If you like this type of content, I appreciate a like, consider subscribing, and hit that bell. That way you get notified when we come out with other videos to help modernize your media ministry. Thanks for watching, folks. This is AJ. We'll see you on the next video. Later.